Hey guys, welcome back to Primer Podcast. My name's Jessica Flake, and we are with Meredith Lobb. That is first time with us this week, and excited to have you here and hear about your story. So this week was a special week of just several people that took a next step in faith of being baptized, and
Yeah.
just a special moment of being able to witness and just walk with you guys in this part of your journey. And so, one, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And would you be willing to share a little bit about your story and what led you to be baptized at this point?
Absolutely. So this baptism for myself and for my husband is marking just a season of just a lot of spiritual growth in our lives, in our marriage, and in our family. We have two little boys, and kind of really since this past fall, like God has just been doing so much in our lives. We've been going to St. Mark's for 10 years, so it was the first step, though, that we took when I asked Beth, like, how do you become a member of this church? And she's like, well, you should do the Connect class. So, yes, after 10 years, we decided this past fall to do the Connect class. And that was just that one step that we needed to take. And God just has opened up so many doors from that one
Wow.
step in that direction. And so now we're part of a small group. And then in being part of a small group, it was my husband actually that started reading the Bible daily with a couple of the guys, and they have like an accountability like text thread, and they read a chapter and then they reflect on it. And in doing that, they're starting the Gospels, and one of them was reading about Jesus's baptism. And I just remember him like coming in telling me like, well, Jesus was baptized as an adult, and like I think this is our time. And so we were like, yes, absolutely, I'm so ready for that. I was baptized as an infant, but I'm so happy to be able to have this opportunity as an adult, and just to um, show that I am making that choice for God's will in my life, and not what I want, but what God wants, because I know that that's just the best thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so awesome to hear. And like I said, it's been truly a privilege to be able to get to know you more and hear a lot of your story. And um, like I said, just to be able to be a witness of that. And so, um, like in Pete's message, he talks about what baptism is dying of self,
Yeah.
and taking on this new life of following Jesus, and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And he was talking a lot about how dying to self can feel overwhelming if you feel like you have to do it immediately.
For sure.
And so like he referenced, it'd be like going on day one and saying, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon, and I am expecting to be able to finish the entire thing without any training at all. And so that, like, that instance, like, it immediately made me think, okay, like, that it makes sense. Like, you have to train, you have to practice. And I think about like spiritual practices and how beneficial they are in our lives to bring us closer to Christ, to make us become more and more like Christ.
Absolutely.
And is there any spiritual practice that you felt like has been really beneficial for you
Yeah.
to grow your relationship?
I think that, like I said, like this has been a season of tremendous spiritual growth, and a lot of it comes from like my husband and I making that conscious decision to wake up every day and start with what God has for us. So like being in his word, and praying that prayer, like align my heart and my mind to your will, God, not my own. And when you're starting with that, then I'm not like immediately looking at my phone and thinking about, okay, what's my to-do list for today? And what am I doing? But I'm actually putting that, like, I'm opening up my hands and I'm allowing God's will and not my own first thing in the morning. And that has just been transformational for every aspect of our life. And a lot of help has come from reading that book, Habits of the Household, too,
Yeah.
and like helping to drive that for our family and what spiritual formation looks like for our family as well. So, but yeah, that practice of just like the first thing in the morning, praying and
Mhm.
seeking God's will first has been really something that just helps you practice that
Mhm.
spirit of like generosity that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, part of that generosity is our giving of our time to God as well. And so
Yeah.
like being able to have you know, that on your mind when you wake up.
Yeah.
And that and some people's is not first thing in the morning. Some
Yeah.
people are feeling like, okay, first thing in the morning is not best time for me, but finding that time
Yeah.
that you can be intentional about your relationship with Christ,
Yeah.
whether it's, you know, lunchtime or, you know, an hour before bedtime, whatever it is because each one of us is made differently. And so I think that
Absolutely.
is what we have to remind ourselves is that each practice that we do, I love silence and solitude. I
Mm.
know many, many people that absolutely hate it. But if I can tell my relationship with Christ is is lacking when I don't find time to be in silence and solitude.
Yeah.
And so others could be my husband's is nature. And so
Mm.
it's the same thing. It's like if he has not went hiking on a solo trip or a, you know, a trip with his buddies, he can tell that he it's just that spirit in him is saying you we need to get some together time.
Yes, I can relate to that so much. Yes.
Yeah. So, Pete talked about the practice of giving in secret and what that looks like.
Mm.
And so, like that, actually, would you mind reading Matthew
Absolutely.
6, 1 through
Sure.
3?
So in Matthew 6, it says, be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing.
Mm. So, pretty much, in other words, like the spiritual practice of, you know, giving in secrecy, it leads us to shift our motivation from worldly recognition
Yeah.
um, to the reward, reward. I mispronounce words every single podcast, and it's just gonna be one of those. We're gonna have like a whole thing one of these days that
A blooper
a
reel.
bloopers, yeah, a reward is like our reward is going to be eternal, and but the world truly tells us that, you know, it our appearance is what matters, our
Yeah.
um what we do matters, what we do for a living is our worth. But I think where um Jesus is talking here in Matthew is that, you know, it's not to do this giving in for anything worldly,
Yeah.
that it truly should be between you and God.
Yes.
And so I think that is something that we have to remember. And Pete asked in the service is like, what are some things that we can do to practice this? So what's some things that you can think of in secrecy that you can kind of give to the whether it's giving to the needy or to your a person in random.
For me, it's been about giving my time
Mm,
to others, like allowing that space for God to have it, like working through me and having that space to have a conversation with somebody. And it might not be necessarily talking about God, but just for me to listen to them
yeah.
and feel his love. And so that's something that I've felt um in my prayer time, like be generous with your time.
Mm.
But it's so interesting that we're talking about this like in secrecy, because juxtaposed with our baptisms, like baptism is something that we're doing that is showing this outward symbol, but
Right.
most of what we're called to do is to not have any glory be for ourselves, but be for God. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just really interesting how we're putting these two together this
Yeah.
particular week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it really um makes sense because like baptism is showing our dedication to Christ, and all the
Yeah.
glory goes to God.
Yes.
Where a lot of times I know for myself, like not that when I'm giving, it makes me think of, oh gosh, I should get patted on the back
Yeah.
when I give to the person that's on that's homeless on the side of the road. But I do wonder how many times I have this subconsciously feeling that I have, like, that I need a recognition of it,
Yes.
and I don't even realize that I'm doing it because it's ingrained in our life because of the world that we live in.
Yeah,
It's just
we
that's
like
just
to
a
feel
normal.
those
Yeah,
words of praise to
right.
ourselves,
Yeah,
and but if we're giving in that way, then we're stealing that away from God.
right.
He gets the glory in
Yeah,
the end. So yeah.
yeah, and I think that's just one of those things that we can really think about this week and be able to, like in our groups, talk about what it is to live a life that points only to Christ and
Yes.
not back to ourselves. And
Yes.
um, it's going to be a lifelong journey, and we need community around us to continue to strive towards being more and more like Christ. And so hopefully you guys are able to talk about this in your groups or in your individual studies, and we'll see you next week.
See?
Bye.